Did you know that hot news is good for your soul and your health? 9 out of 5 doctors rate it as being the best cure for boredom, ignorance, and coldness. Did the other news shows you watch give you that? No, they don't. So let's get into today's hot news. Hot news. I love the fact that as we continue to live our lives every single day, there's more and more reason to be terrified of the upcoming artificial intelligence and robot revolution. We have dog bots that can open doors, we have flying acrobatic humanoids, and now we have artificial intelligence developed to destroy you in Quake III. I know, that doesn't sound all that impressive. Computers mastering a 19-year-old game, big whoop. Well, let me walk you through this just so you can feel the same terror that I have inside of my gallbladder right now. You may have heard of the AI that's learned to master Dota 2. In its own right, that's pretty cool, but the AI was fed raw data about the game and had assistance in its development from humans. For the Quake III mastery, the AI continuously played on procedurally generated maps of Capture the Flag so that it wouldn't develop skills specific to a single map, but rather it'd have a broad strategy, and it had to figure out the nuances of the game by itself. After 450,000 games played, the AI is better than most Quake III players out there. In case you didn't catch the horrific nature of what I just said, let me spell it out for you. We train computers to learn how to navigate terrain, no matter their circumstance, to figure out how to kill other players and take their stuff. As one commenter pointed out, it is a really smart idea to help computers learn how to cooperate to kill. In case this news petrifies you, don't worry, we can now escape to VR more than ever before. Kaya Tech has developed the HoloSuit, described as the world's first affordable, bi-directional, wireless, and easy-to-use full-body motion capture suit. The wearer of the suit can get haptic feedback from the suit for interacting with objects in a virtual environment, but it can also be used for motion cap to evaluate users' movements during an activity like examining a golf swing. They recently launched their Kickstarter campaign and have already reached their $50,000 goal. It appears that they're charging $900 for the early adopter full suit, which includes 26 sensors, 9 haptic feedback devices, and 6 firing buttons. I would like to remind you that this is a Kickstarter, so it's possible that they don't actually have the technology ready to roll out and they might just take your money and never deliver, but I must say the demo seems pretty convincing, but stuff like that could be fake, so fair warning. However, in my personal opinion, I think that this actually sets VR back, not moves it ahead. The biggest issue I see with VR is its wide-scale adoption rates, which need to be much higher for games companies and software developers to take it seriously and develop a lot more for the virtual environment. Just like with the Vive Pro bundle we reported on previously, the cost-prohibitive nature of getting the VR experience has the opposite effects of adoption, at least in my mind. The further the price moves away from a place where an everyman can consider it and then moves into a realm of what an enthusiast would pay, I think we're missing the plot with VR and just continuing to have it live out its short existence as a gimmick and nothing more. I know a lot of you didn't agree with that perspective when I mentioned it during the Vive Pro bundle segment, but I'm keen to have a conversation with you about it. Hashtag change my mind. Samsung was just awarded a patent for their own biometric camera for their own face unlock system on upcoming Galaxy phones. It's practically the same thing as Apple's Face ID, except not really since they were granted the patent, but it should serve the same purpose as making sure your face matches the face of the phone operator for verification purposes, unlock the phone in darkness and all of that kind of stuff. This is welcome news to me since after using the S9 Plus for a month or so, it's stupendously clear that Samsung's current face unlock system is just trash, it's bad. There's speculation that we might see it on the Note 9, which is being unveiled on August 9th, or it might just have to wait until 2019 Galaxy devices to actually see the light of day. And other technology that Samsung hasn't implemented, or anyone besides Vivo for that matter, is an under-the-screen fingerprint reader in order to save space on the body of the actual smartphone. Students from the School of Materials Science and Engineering, Samsung Display Center, have developed a new fingerprint sensor that can be used under the glass of the phone, but also doesn't work in the same way that the Vivo phone implements it. They figured out a way to use tactile pressure and temperature detection to determine one's fingerprint based on the fact that only the ridges of a person's finger will come into contact with the display. They claim that their technique actually satisfies the FBI's criteria for resolution of extracted fingerprint patterns, so it's not just some cheap gimmick that'll work its way with anyone's fingerprint. It's actually something pretty cool. You can read the full paper in the description if you're interested in the nuanced technology that went into the development of the sensor, but it looks like we're getting some pretty cool things that can come into smartphones in a few years. Hey Tank, can you just shout at me more Samsung news? More Samsung news? What? There's more Samsung news? Geez, okay, I guess we'll just call the past two articles and this one the Samsung be ballin' segment. It appears that Samsung and ARM will be partnering up for the development of new chips using Samsung's new 7nm and future 5nm production processes. This partnership appears to be specifically aimed at ARM's Cortex-A76 processor, which can potentially replace other low-end laptop chips. Yes, that means that they're gunning for Intel here. Again, links in the description for the official technical breakdown, but they're hoping that this partnership will allow them to break or exceed the 3 GHz barrier on the new ARM processor. And I guess that's the end of our segment of Samsung be ballin'. And while Samsung and ARM seem to be taking aim at Intel's laptop chips, it appears that someone is taking aim at Intel's mobile chip development. Any guesses as to who that company is? No, not Qualcomm. No, not Broadcom. Did you guess Intel? Good, because you'd be right. It appears that Intel is shutting down their Sunny Peak development program, which was dedicated making 5G modems for smartphones. Specifically, it appears that they were intending for the new modems to be used in the upcoming 2020 iPhones. However, in a report by CTech, it appears that Apple informed Intel that it will not be going with their 5G modems in the new phones. In retaliation, it appears that Intel said to them, "Fine, I didn't even want to be making stupid 5G modems in the first place," and then promptly canceled the development and redirected the engineering team to other projects. Okay, maybe it didn't happen that way, but that's how I imagine Intel acting. I'm really hoping that one of these days that I can actually bring you good news about Intel, because holy crap, it feels like they're falling apart at the seams in every single department. In some quick AMD news, it appears that Sapphire has begun production of a Ryzen V1000 APU Mini STX motherboard for embedded systems. This tiny board features either a 4-core 8-thread or 2-core 4-thread Ryzen CPU, combined with Vega graphics in the 3, 8, and 11 compute unit variety. This board will be meant for things such as thin clients, medical imaging computers, and various low-resource intensive setups. And if you want to know just how popular Ryzen has become since its release, TechPowerUp recently released the results of a survey that they did seeing what CPU their readers use. While it's clear that Intel is still dominating with 65% of the total number of CPUs, the interesting bit is that the majority of those Intel chips are from Intel's 4th gen series and previous, with the 14nm Skylake and the various refreshes only making about 43% of Intel CPUs. So if you compare adoption rates of the two newest generations on either side, that being Kaby Lake and Coffee Lake versus Ryzen 1 and 2, AMD is actually outpacing Intel with 56% of the total CPUs from the last 2 years. Now obviously this isn't official sales data, but rather a cut of demographic from readers of TechPowerUp who tend to be more technologically savvy. Intel may very well be destroying AMD in total units sold, but it appears that many gamers are swapping ship to AMD's newfound multi-core number crunchers. It also looks like Team Red is sending out review samples of their upcoming Ryzen 5 2500X and Ryzen 3 2300X CPUs. X Fastest, which is a media center in Asia, has been testing these chips and been putting them to work, including putting them under liquid nitrogen and hitting 5.5 GHz. We don't have much besides a few new Cinebench scores, but it looks like these CPUs are about as capable as we had anticipated they would be, 10 to 15% over their first-gen counterparts. And in some sad news before we get to happy news, and then some further sad news, it appears that World of Warcraft's in-game currency is worth substantially more than the Venezuelan Bolivar. In case you're not caught up to date, Venezuela is currently undergoing hyperinflation, which has positively decimated the currency's value. Currently, it's sitting officially at roughly 69,000 Bolivar to $1 US. Unofficial black market trading indicates that it's closer to 637,000 Bolivar to a single dollar. Warcraft's gold is about 10,152 gold pieces to a single USD, meaning the in-game currency is either 7 times, officially, or 62 times, unofficially, more valuable than the real-life Venezuelan currency. From this, there are some reports that some Venezuelan players are attempting to farm gold in order to provide for themselves because it's better than working at their normal jobs. Although that part of that could just be clickbait from this article I read, but the fact about the numbers and the currency is real, and that's really unfortunate. It's not the only currency in the world to have this sort of exchange rate against the dollar, at least the official one, but the circumstances that have led to the hyperinflation and it being as bad as it is presents a really difficult situation for Venezuelans. I'll leave a link in the description for you to do more research on what's actually happening in that country there if you're interested. And now it's time for happy news. The European Union rejected the legislation that was going to ban memes. In a vote of 318 against and 278 2024, they struck down the bill in its present form, which would implement incredibly stricter protocols on user-generated content on websites, meaning that many companies would have to start policing memes. It's incredibly exciting times, but the fight isn't over, friends. They will be reworking the draft law to implement a few changes and bring it back in for a second vote in September. Hopefully, they'll strike out Articles 11 and 13, which are the most egregious portions of the bill, but it's unlikely that that would actually take place. The best we can say for now is that our memes are safe for another 2 months, and we still need to keep petitioning members of the European Parliament until they stop trying to pass this money-grubbing legislation altogether. Well done, fam squad. And for the second sad news of the day, it appears that miners will have to start buying up a lot more mining systems because of a giant flood that took place in China. There was severe flooding that took place in the Sichuan province, where it's reported that up to 70% of China's overall hashing power is located. Some speculate that this caused up to a 30% crash in the Bitcoin network's total hashing power the day that it occurred. Reports indicate that tens of thousands of mining rigs, ASICs and GPU mining rigs alike, were drowned in the floods. It seems that a lot of the equipment is lost, while others have a graveyard of their machines sitting outside of their mining warehouses. It's a gruesome sight to see. This likely will mean that these mining operations will have to replenish the stock of both ASIC machines and GPUs in order to get back up to the production levels that they were previously at. That could mean that we could see a spike in GPU prices due to a surge in demand instead of that 20% drop that we reported late last week. It sounds like the damage was extensive and far-reaching, so a lot of mining equipment will have to be replaced, but it may also be that these mining operations might choose to not replenish with current GPUs, but instead get the leg up by flying in thousands of next-gen cards, which would promptly drive up prices therein. It's unfortunate news, and if it weren't for Mother Nature, we might actually have seen GPU prices go down. And I just want to take a moment to quickly address some rumors that's going around that NVIDIA might be having up to 1 million of the next-gen GPUs in inventory. That's coming out of the DigiTimes report that we actually mentioned last week, but I didn't read it in the same way that every other news organization is taking it. From what I could gather and in the context that it's being presented, it's the fact that NVIDIA has 1 million GPUs in leftover stock, not upcoming inventory. It's possible that it could be read that way. I just didn't take it that way because of the context of the article and what it's discussing. It wasn't discussing next-gen cards. It was discussing inventory that's left over. Anyways, that's my perspective. I just want to quickly mention that in case you're hearing that NVIDIA has 1 million GPUs ready to go, because all of the other official reports that were coming out before today were basically like, this is going to be a paper launch and there's only a couple hundred units. So I'm not sure what switched, but people just tend to read what they want. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up for hot news today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys being here for hot news. It means the world to me. Don't forget that we have UFD deals where we bring you hot deals from around the internet. So if you want to check that out, you can check the link in the video description. It supports us, keeps everything going around here. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Please get subscribed to stay up to date on all of our tech-related content. That's going to wrap it up here. I'm Brett with the UFD Tech Channel. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for hearing Tank cough. And I'll see your smiling faces again in the next video. Cheers.